Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Adler, and it's an honor to introduce David Ned Campbell, who I've known since 1980 when I first joined Tampa Electric, where he was one of the top executives. Dave was known as Ned for the first 18 years of his life. He graduated from West Salem High School with 8 other students. Now, as a student, he was valedictorian of his class, and he achieved the third highest score in Wayne County in the state scholarship test. His roots are deep. He was born over 100 years after the families of Dunlaps, Finleys, Brittons, and Stanleys first owned land in northwestern Wayne County. He was the third generation of his mother's side of the family to graduate from the same building on East Buckeye Street. Dave was raised from infancy by his mother's parents throughout his school years. This was not unusual during the Great Depression, and he had a happy and a lifelong relationship with his parents and his siblings. Though he played basketball, baseball, and ran track like every other boy in the top 4 grades of his school, his grandmother encouraged his interest as a musician. He sang as a soloist in the chorus and Methodist choir, and he played drums in the school band at West Salem. He had a scholarship to what was then Ashland College and graduated as salutatorian of the class of 1951. He also met his college sweetheart, Helen Beck, at the beginning of what would become a 59-year marriage. Together, they raised 3 children, a son, Phil, a retired architect, a daughter, Kathy Barber, a retired marketing executive, and daughter, Allison, about to retire as a college theater professor. His grandchildren, Brian and Caroline Barber, are professionals now living and working in the United Kingdom. Like nearly every male graduate in 1951, he put a pause on his entry into corporate America by serving on a U.S. destroyer during the Korean War. Dave spent 40 years in the corporate world in 5 cities. He served at the executive level for 25 years. After his move to Tampa, Florida, he chaired many task forces that served 3 Tampa mayors, 2 governors, and a state house speaker in a variety of ways. He retired at 60 as Senior Vice President of Staff Services for TECO Energy. In retirement, he was a volunteer guardian ad litem in the juvenile and family courts in Tampa. Dave once said that he wanted to be remembered as competent. While there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think it begins to cover the essence of the man. Much of his corporate work could not have been achieved without a great deal of personal courage, which I had a chance to see firsthand. Much of his compassion, his integrity, and his insight had and still has far-reaching positive results that affected many people. All of that would leave mere competency in the dust. Dave is 95, but he will never really be old. This may be due to what he says is his secret to success. Always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you are. Maybe that is how he honed his ability to retain and nourish the curiosity that keeps him vital. By most standards, Dave has lived and is living a successful life, but I think his success goes even deeper than the milestones and the kudos. Perhaps Ralph Waldo Emerson described it best when he said, "To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to find the best in others, and to know that even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded." It is both a pleasure and a privilege to introduce David Ned Campbell.
I went to West Salem High School, of course, and graduated in 1947. I was with a class of 9 only, 4 boys and 5 girls. Only a few people, I think, that had 3 generations that were all graduates from that old school in West Salem. So I thank every day the quality of education that I received from a small faculty of only 4 teachers in the high school in those days. I started out, I was going to be a pre-law student, and for reasons that I'm not quite certain, I changed my mind and graduated from college with a psychology degree, which in those days set me up quite nicely to have a early career in what we now call HR, or human resources. Well, you may or may not realize that when you graduated from college in 1951 and you happen to be male, you were going to have one choice, and that is which military service were you going to serve in. But it's an experience that has stood in my mind the rest of my life, and which led me to believe that even though it's not exactly a wonderful way to start your career, I learned a lot in the Navy that I would have never learned any other way. And I'm proud to have served. And when I got out, the first job I took was at Dairy Pack Incorporated. And I worked there for almost 5 years. I was recruited by Seal Test Foods, division of what became Kraft. And then I served 18 months in Philadelphia, went to Washington, D.C. for 3 years, where I was the personnel director of a group of employees of about 1,000 in the nation's capital. So I had that experience of working in Washington, which was a wonderful experience. And that also opened me up to my experience with the Teamsters, which I then dealt with for 13 years. And Seal Test at the time was the second largest employers of Teamster labor in North America. And as I moved up then, first to New York City, the Metropolitan Division, where I had about 2,000 employees. So that's my start. And then when Seal Test decided to move their corporate headquarters from New York to Philadelphia, we got the offer of what in those days was called a golden parachute, which was severance pay and so forth if you decided not to go. I decided not to go because at the time I thought my children ought to have the opportunity to finish their education in Glen Rock, New Jersey, where we lived. That didn't turn out to work. So I was recruited then by TECO, Tampa Electric Company, which later became TECO Energy. And that's where I finished my corporate career and where I had almost all of my experience in the world outside of corporations, in state, local government, even at the national level, and so forth, which is what gave me the overall experience that I had in the corporate world and beyond. The first one I want to thank is the late Ramona Reed Sasma, who nominated me 10 years ago for this. I want to thank the committee for electing me. I want to thank my teachers at West Salem School System for the 12 years of education that allowed me to do what I did with my life. I want to thank my grandparents who rescued me during the Great Depression from some difficulties during that period of time, allowing me to live with them for 18 years and be educated like I was at West Salem. And the last one, I want to thank Michelle Adler, who's going to be the person who will introduce me for this event.